Hey, welcome back, everyone. This is Inside the Diamonds podcast. This is episode 9. I'm your host, JC, and I'm joined again tonight with CJ. How you doing, CJ?
Aside from this cold that I have, I am fantastic.
Cold
Great
or
birthday weekend.
allergies?
I don't know. That's what I'm
Oh,
trying
is
to
it
figure
that
out.
kind of cold?
No, it actually kicked on more so last night, and it's just kicked my ass today. Sniffles. That's all it
Gotcha.
is. Just
Just the
sniffles.
sniffles? Yeah, I wouldn't let
Yeah.
anyone else know that. Just the sniffles. Don't be an Austin Matthews. Play the game. Um,
I'm here ready to work.
did you, by chance, not to talk hockey, but did you see any of the reels of the Toronto coach quitting made with the different memes and reels where it's not really his voice but him? Oh, there's some good ones out there right now.
I have not seen.
Nothing better than seeing the Maple Leafs fans kind of fold under the pressure and throw a fit. They should know better by now in a game 7 against the Bruins what's going to happen. So uh let's get right into baseball. Forget all this hockey talk. That's for somebody else to do. What did you think? What was some of your takeaways from this past week? What was, I guess, the biggest takeaway from this past week of
Uh,
baseball?
so we talked about this a couple weeks ago. It might have been last week with the Aaron Boone getting tossed when it was the fan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can we just start with I'm tired of the show? Like, let's get back to baseball here. I didn't
Yeah.
I forget what day it was the other day, and there's a clip, it went viral, of Byron Buxton. I think he had a bad slide. He just tweaked something. I think he's played all week. I don't think he's on the injured list or anything.
No,
But
he's on the
there's
injured list now.
oh, he is. So he was actually badly hurt. Um, there's the video of him jogging off the field, and the umpire clearly saying to him, "Let's speed this up." What are we doing? The guy's hurt. He's trying to get
Yeah.
off the field. And you can kind of see Buxton took a second. It looks like he actually almost tried to go into a slight jog, and then kind of just stopped and was like, "Nope, can't do that." And he wasn't moving that slow. He was getting off the field. He was just hurt. The other one was I'm sure you saw it, the Mets Cubs game that they had home plate, which, not for nothing, everybody can have their opinion on this. I think he was blocking the plate. I mean, you can't stand on home plate, but it is what it is. It was the call. I didn't like the whole. So they reviewed it. They said it wasn't blocking the plate, and they said that he was out. So nothing got overturned in any way, shape, or form. The call stood. What I didn't like was you could hear the hot mics. I shouldn't say I didn't like. I love the hot
Mm-hmm.
mics. I didn't like the umpire saying, if you have a problem with it, take it up with the office. Like, what are we?
Yeah.
It's
It was pretty bad.
to a show. And on top of that, Judge getting tossed the other day for the first time in his career.
Yeah.
It's just
So you bring up an interesting point because we've talked about robo umps. You mentioned how the minor leagues are kind of using this as a system to check. Do you feel of any or do you think there's any pressure on these umps where they feel as if almost they know their time is up and they're trying to make their impact now? Or is it just they're sick and tired of the bullshit and being second guessed all the time in regards to different things and hearing it all the time, that they're between that and being pressured to speed up the game, that just like the players, they're seeing a pressure from their bosses in regards to doing their job and kind of getting things in line, because it's all about the speed of the game, how quick we can turn this over, get the fans in and get them out. Like, there's got to be some element of pressure that they're feeling, not by just calling balls and strikes and outs and in fair balls and foul, but they've got to be feeling the pressure of, some of these guys, not saying that Buxton is one, but some of these guys are at a beat of their own drummer and they don't give a shit on the field. They're going to hustle on and off, or they're just going to take their sweet ass time. And some of these guys under their pressure, and some of them have pretty damn big egos too, it's just I don't know what's going on, but it hasn't been a good look in the past 2 weeks, especially for the umps. And again, nowadays with cell phones, the hot mics and everything, and what they're doing with replay, it's it's pretty tough to get away with anything. The old days of reading lips and determining what the umps and coaches and players were saying to each other is just about over because it's right there front and center for everyone now with all the technology.
Yep. I mean, it's gonna be interesting to watch over the couple weeks because I don't know if it gets better or if it gets worse. I mean, I don't know, and it's all. I think all these umps are starting to get egos. I think I agree with you. I think they're feeling the pressure of the robo umps, and I think they're feeling pressure of their bosses, and that's affecting things. But it's not a good look to tell a player who's hurt to hurry up and get off the field.
Yeah.
I
You
mean,
know what would be interesting? And this is probably a stat that somewhere is found, but it would be interesting to see for the number of games, the ratio of in the minor leagues, people getting tossed versus the major leagues.
yeah, that would be
Especially now
interesting.
with a robo ump, because what are the player going to do? The ump may have called it a ball. The other team deems it was a strike, and they go to the computer. It's not the ump's fault. He got it right the first time.
That is true. That is
It
something
would,
that if there was a way to find it,
I'll have to take a look, not now, but down the road to see what it all looks like because it's just I don't know. They're trying to speed up the game. They're trying to do everything else. These refs have got to be feeling some sort of pressure about it. Um, it's very interesting to me of how it's looking. But this past week was pathetic.
yeah.
Out and just not a good look. Regardless, so it'll
Well,
be
with number one,
interesting. Yep.
oh, I don't want to cut you off. It's definitely
No,
gonna be
go for
interesting.
it.
Um, I just don't want. I don't think people want to hear us talk about the umps. I mean,
No.
everybody knows they're bad. And also, like, can we, if we're going to start being able to overturn things after 7 days or whatever, can we go back, whatever amount of time and get Galarraga his perfect game back? That's the
Yeah.
other thing that I don't like. I mean, and I will always respect. I think it was Jim Joyce was the ump, and he
In
even said
tears.
he got it wrong. And the next day, in tears during the lineup exchange when Galarraga came out for that. Um, I mean, that's how it should be.
Yeah.
He admitted he got it wrong. He admitted everything. He felt terrible about it. Let's overturn that. I think I wish I don't know if we can create one, but let's get a poll, and I want to see if there's a way I can do it and throw it up on social media and see who agrees that he should have his perfect game given to him, and see who disagrees. Because I think if you disagree, I want to hear why. I want to hear the reason why, because I think he deserves to have it overturned and have his perfect game on the record.
Yeah, that's too bad to see it done that. I saw that one and I saw Schilling um when the kid bunted. There's some things I think at another time when we can talk about the rules of baseball and different things, but that Galarraga one is an ump related and definitely should be overturned, in
For
my
sure.
opinion.
For sure. Um, so let's talk about these red hot Baltimore Orioles, huh?
Yeah.
6-1 last week. And that was taking 3 or 4 from the Yankees, and then they swept the Reds over the weekend. And when I was looking into it, I was like, I wonder what they put up for runs and everything. They outscored their opponents 29-8 in those 7 games.
Yep.
And I mean, think about it. They just lost Grayson Rodriguez. He's on the injured list. They got John Means back in his first start, 7 innings, no runs, 3 hits, no walks, and 8 Ks.
Yep.
You're adding that to a rotation that, when healthy, I don't know who's the odd man out. You got Burns, who's a Cy Young candidate. You're not taking him out, especially with what he gave up to get him. Kyle Bradish is back. To me, Cole Irvin's the guy out, but John Means, Kramer, and Grayson Rodriguez, I really have a tough time even taking Cole Irvin out. But that rotation is stacked.
Irvin pitched tremendous the other night, and it was him versus Hunter Green. And the biggest difference in that game, and the biggest difference I see in the Orioles, is they don't give you multiple outs. You don't. They've. I think this was the stat I heard the other night, and it may have changed since. I don't think they have more than 9 double plays turned against them this year.
I didn't hear that stat, but that is interesting if it's true.
That was it during the Reds game. Like I believe it was during the Reds game, or maybe it was the Cubs Brewers game. But like they worked Hunter Green to 98 pitches, I think, through 5. So they're working the counts. They're getting, and they've just got. And the biggest thing when I heard that it was about the double play is that the athletes that they have on that team, they all can run. They all
Mm-hmm.
can run. They all can move. And if you're not able to be having a ground ball pitcher come in when someone gets a single or walks and then turn over that double play, you're just extending the inning. The pitcher does his job, but if you can run and beat it out, they're a very dangerous team. And like you said, with the injuries they have in their rotation, getting Means back, which not a lot of people, I think you and I personally offline talked about it,
Mm-hmm.
but they're a team that they took it to the Yankees again. They took it to the Reds, and one piece here, one piece there, and this team is going to be tough to beat again. Not just this year, but like you said, for many years to come.
I don't even know if they need another piece, unless you're going to move one of those arms to get a number 2 solid arm. But Rodriguez has looked like a 2, Means is pitching like a 3, and Kramer and Bradish can run out the rest of the rotation. I don't think
And
you
you
need
still
another arm.
have Irwin to spot start when needed.
Right. And I was looking at some numbers, and we talked about Jackson Holiday, I think, in our preview podcast, and
Yeah.
we'll get to him later and what's going on with him. But nobody talked about Colton Cowser, and what a start for his career. 276 average, a 929 OPS, 6 home runs, 19 RBIs, 13 runs scored, 3 stolen bases, and he's the betting favorite right now on DraftKings to be the Rookie of the Year.
Yeah. I remember opening day at Fenway. We were both there.
Yep.
And just being impressed with him. Gunnar Henderson I was impressed with, but him especially. He is a top prospect, a guy that was talked about heavily, but due to the amount of talent they have, he's overshadowed.
Yep.
But his stats speak for themselves.
I don't think he will be much longer.
No.
I mean, I remember he was
be.
a thorn. All 3 games in that Red Sox series, he was a thorn on their side. And I love seeing it. The other good name I liked, and you just said it, Gunnar Henderson might be the MVP. Yeah. I mean, what he's doing is fantastic. He's 274, 914 OPS, 10 home runs, 24 RBIs, 26 runs scored, 6 stolen bases, and he hasn't been caught stealing yet.
No.
And he's right behind Juan Soto for the betting favorite to be the MVP. I mean, is it unrealistic that these Orioles are, they started off slow. Have they figured it out and they're ready to roll? And they are proving they're might be the best team in baseball, especially after the weekend series with the Dodgers and the Braves, which I'll get to. That's on my list, I think, later on.
Yeah.
Actually, it's actually next, so I might as well just transition into it unless you want to add more on the Orioles.
No, I just think they're an impressive team, and what you're about to speak about is what I'm really looking forward to.
So I had said last week that was I think that was my main series that I was excited for the weekend. Yeah. And the Braves just didn't show up. I mean, Glasnow is dominant. If he can stay healthy, and there's something I'll mention about this series, but if he can stay healthy, that pitching staff is very good. And he got the start on Saturday. I think the final score was 11-2 in that game. He went 7 innings, gave up 5 hits, 2 earned runs, a 1 walk, and 10 Ks. I mean, but I forget. He faced Elder. So I mean, I'm not big on Bryce Elder. I'd rather have seen Smith Shawver get a chance or something like that. But the other one was yesterday, which we thought was going to be Sunday Night Baseball, but it was the 4:10 start. And I thought for sure the Braves would not get swept when I saw the pitching matchup for that game. But Fried, what was it? Last week we were watching the game, and we mentioned he had a complete game, and he looked dominant. Yeah, not this week against that Dodgers lineup. 7 innings pitched, 4 hits, 4 earned runs, 3 walks, 7 Ks.
Yeah.
Paxton went 6 2/3, gave up 5 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 3 Ks. So outpitched by James Paxton. And
how bad is that? That outing's not horrible for Max.
No.
It's just not when you compare it to what he did the week before.
Yeah, I mean the 4 earned runs is tough, but it's the Dodgers lineup, and
exactly.
So 4 earned runs is not bad. The other thing, I was listening to something today, and it made me think while I was looking up this series. And there's a conversation going around on Twitter and social media with Shohei Ohtani and what he's doing to start this year
Yeah.
and how he's hot in his numbers. I didn't write his numbers down because I heard it while I was driving. Um, but is it unfair to say he's doing all this because he doesn't have to worry about pitching? I mean, I'm going to pull it up. So if you want to think
So
on
I'm
it.
just, I'm just, because we talked about this before, right? We talked about him coming back and being more of a closer in the playoffs. And when I was thinking about, anytime I think about Otani, I think about how it appears from what we hear, how obsessed he is with his routine, right? And that takes in a lot of his time, making sure he gets in his bullpen, make sure he's throwing and doing all this stuff. Right now, he can't throw.
Mhm.
He's got nothing to do but focus on hitting. And we all know he's a phenomenal hitter. But now he is so dialed in and he hasn't stopped. I think he's got 10 home runs and I want to say 28 to 32 RBIs. Again, this
25.
was some 25. So at some point, the trickiest thing with him is when he's right, he's dominant on the mound too.
Right.
So I don't think you're ever going to see him really truly just be a pitcher or a hitter, but right
Dodgers
now,
don't need him
without
to be a
having that
pitcher.
stress,
The
it's
Dodgers really don't need him to be a pitcher. So that's why I asked the question. What are they gonna do? I mean, you paid him all that money, so you're gonna have to pitch him. Whether it's like you said in the preview, is he a closer? It's right now. Who knows? I mean, he's got his as of right now, he's hitting 364 with a 1.111 OPS. I mean, that's just, and again, it's only through 35 games, but people were talking about it as that's a career high for him if the season ended today. Will it stay like that? Who knows? I mean, but he's
yeah.
so dialed in, he might. I mean, he's got 52 hits, which I want to do the math. So 52 divided by 35 games. It's 1.4 hits per game he's played in.
Holy shit.
Say he plays in, what do we want to say? Probably 145 just to be safe. He might play in more,
Yeah.
but 145. He's looking at 215 hits, which would be a career high.
Yeah.
His career high right now is 160. So just think about that.
So that's an interesting, that's phenomenal, right? But didn't Ichiro have 300 hits in a season?
Yes. Oh,
So
I
now
believe, was that his rookie year?
I don't know, because what I'm doing is I'm thinking about
Ichiro's
Otani's
highest.
not known for all the hits, right? He's
Ichiro's
not known.
highest
He's known for that.
was 262 and 04.
Okay, so maybe no one's ever had 300 hits, and maybe I'm just overtired. But Otani's just dialed in. Regardless, doesn't matter what's going on. He's definitely one of these guys right this minute that it's him and his teammate at the top of the list, Mookie Betts, for the NL MVP right now. I don't think there's anyone else that's really close. Acuna's got over 30 runs scored. We talked about him before, and I know he'll heat up, but there's no one in the NL Central that's going to touch him unless Dela Cruz stays on his pace. Then he'll be in the conversation. But if the Reds don't make the playoffs, then that kind of is a notch down.
Right.
That lineup is dangerous, but they've got gaps still.
I mean, the only name that I think you could potentially put into a conversation right now based on the start they've had is Alec Bohm.
Yeah.
He's hitting 360, so he's, just behind Ohtani. He's got 45 hits, so he's 7 hits behind Ohtani. Not up there in the home runs, but
No.
that is what it is. He's second in the National League in RBIs behind Marcell Ozuna, who's another name that you could throw out there. Because I'm working on it will come out tomorrow, my Red Sox Braves series preview, one of my favorite series of the year because I grew up watching both teams. Ozuna leads the National League in home runs and RBIs. So that is another name that is quiet, going around quietly. Like nobody's talking about the season Marcell Ozuna is having.
No.
But he didn't. I mean, I don't know even know what he did in the series against the Dodgers. I barely watched much of it.
He's batting cleanup, right? Most of the time for them.
Right around there, either the 4, 5, or 6 hole. Pulling it up now from yesterday's game at least. Yesterday he hit 5th. Olson's usually batting cleanup, and he went 2 for
Okay.
4 with a run and an RBI home run yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other 2 games he went 0 for 4 and 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. So 0 for 8 with 3 strikeouts entering yesterday.
Yeah.
So that's another name to watch out for. I think that was the other note I had with this series is the Phillies took first place.
Yeah.
And with that, I mean, they swept the Giants. Well, they didn't sweep the Giants because I thought it was a sweep, but then I realized they played today. And did they complete the sweep? They sure did.
Yeah.
So it's another team to watch out for. You've mentioned it before I even did. I thought the Braves would run away with the East, but the Phillies took over first place, and they're right there. So I guess that leads into we'll keep with the Dodgers trend, I guess, if you want to.
Yep.
Yoshinobu Yamamoto.
Hmm.
Now
That was,
I mentioned I wrote an article before the season started, and it might have been after his first start.
yeah.
It was either before the season or right after the first start, and I said, "Is he a bust?" I didn't say he was, and again, I said this
Nope.
when I mentioned it on the last podcast. I didn't say he was, but I said, could he be because his spring training numbers look terrible. And then you and I talked about it. It may have been on the podcast, but it was definitely at least on the side that it was kind of embarrassing that his first start in the major leagues was almost a home game for him,
Yeah.
and he got shelled. But so this point in the season, now this is where I crunched some numbers and I was intrigued by this. So to this point, he has started 7 games. He's 3-1 with a 2.91 ERA, a 1.08 WHIP, 42 strikeouts, 34 innings pitched. Now I crunched it even more, and this is where things are kind of interesting. An 11.1 K per 9, a 0.8 home run per 9, and a 2.1 walk per 9.
Yeah.
So then I was like, I wonder what his numbers really are without that start in Korea.
Yeah.
So starts. He's undefeated, 3-0. His ERA goes from 2.91 to 1.64. His whip drops almost a tenth, so 1.08 to 0.97. He has 2 less strikeouts so he only had 2 strikeouts in that start in Korea. Pitched 1 inning in that game, so he's at 33 innings. So breaking down the numbers, he's got a 10.91 K per 9, a 1.91 walk per 9, so the walks are lower, and a 0.8 home run per 9. So the home run per 9 is the same because I don't think he gave up a home run in that game in Korea. So I'm going to take that back. I don't think he is a bust, and I think they got a pretty solid starter to go with Glasnow on their hands.
Yeah. And the scary thing is you mentioned Paxton, who we saw last year in New England with the Red Sox, look good while he pitched. They still have Walker Buehler, who I believe is coming back in the next 10 days, if not this week. And they still have Clayton Kershaw that they can slow play all they want.
I believe Bueller's back tonight.
Is he back tonight? Okay.
I believe so. I know I have him slated to pitch when we get to it later. He's pitching this weekend, but I believe I did that because he is facing the Marlins tonight.
Okay. Well, what a game to come back to.
Something to get a little confidence under your belt with that crap team.
Jesus. They don't have anything there, but that's another story.
We'll get to that. But the thing about Yamamoto, and I was going to lead into Yamamoto with the other one, but Yamamoto may not even be the best rookie pitcher this year.
No.
And that's where I come in with a Shota Imanaga.
Yep.
Next guy, 6 starts, 5-0 with a 0.78 ERA, a 0.75 WHIP. When was the last time you saw an ERA and a WHIP that close together? He's at
Unreal.
35 Ks, 34 and 2/3 innings, which translates to a 9.1 K per 9, 1 walk per 9, and less than half a home run per 9.
Yeah.
So my issue with this, though, is the numbers are fantastic. But what happens when summer comes and the weather
And
warms up?
you mean the wind changes? Because
Yep.
that's going to be the issue.
Well, also he's going to be on the road a lot more because I
Yep.
feel like the Cubs have been home a lot to start the year. Maybe I'm
They
wrong on
have
that,
been.
but does he start giving up more home runs? And that obviously changes. But for right now, wow, what a start! And I believe he gave up, was it his first home run of the season to the Red Sox that Friday he pitched at Fenway?
That would have been his first, I believe. Yes, going back because the first few games he didn't. His first two starts he didn't give up a run. So yeah, I think it might be the way he's pitching though, and the one thing that impresses me about Shota. And again, this is a little biased because I pay more attention. I've watched more of his starts, and I haven't seen Yamamoto except for clips. Other than that first game, is he's having fun. Seeing
Yeah,
him out there joking around, having fun. He reminds me an awful lot of Seiya Suzuki, the way they interact with the teammates together and just, enjoying the game. But the biggest thing for him is he's only throwing in that 93, 94 mile an hour fastball range, but he's always up high in the zone. But once the weather changes, it heats up a little bit. Some of these pop flies that are kind of dying or the wind's blowing in, that'll be the true test to see if he can keep that home run rate down, because that's where I could see him getting in trouble, especially, on the road and in Cincinnati at that ballpark, even in Wrigley, if the wind's not blowing in and he gets up, that could be against the right team, could be dangerous for him. But as of right now, he's definitely by far, in my opinion, the best free agent pitcher signing and rookie right now pitcher at this point.
he feeding off what you said about his attitude and everything he's got going on. His press conference was electric, where he said
Yeah.
he put the hat on and he said, "Hey Chicago, what do you say? The Cubs are going to win today." I mean,
Yeah.
that tells you right there the kind of guy he is. And to go back to what I had said, his first home run he gave up was to the Marlins. It was Josh
Oh,
Bell to start before the Red Sox.
yeah, Bell.
So, and the final thing that I want to talk about from last week was the weirdest thing we might have seen on a baseball field in a long time. A 2-hour delay for bees.
Yeah.
And the story of the guy, have you heard the story, the
Isn't
full
that
story on it?
early though for bees? Or am I not knowing my bee
I mean,
facts?
it's Arizona. So I mean,
Oh,
but the guy was at his son's Little League game.
gets called.
You have to get called because he works for, I had it written down here, Sky Blue Pest Control. So he
The
came in to
hero.
handle the bee issue, and he got to throw out the first pitch, and then they made him a Topps baseball card.
That's awesome.
The guy's name, the hero of the week, may as well, we could make that a segment. Matt Hilton. I mean, I
Two
couldn't
hour
believe it.
delay for bees.
And did
There's
you see
been
the
some
video?
strange ones, but there was a ton. I'm
That was
allergic, so
that was
have at it.
disgusting. I mean, what was that? Where? How do you not know? Like,
Yeah, that's not something that happens overnight.
right?
That had been coming, and it just seemed maybe were they. I mean, there's a lot to get into it. Maybe they were away for a 10-day stretch or whatever. But either way,
I mean, I know they were off, but like somebody's got to be there. Like, even if you show up and you just hang out, like you're like not hang out, but like somebody in ownership or somebody in like a GM or something like that. Like we all see Moneyball. Billy
yeah,
Bean in
Jimmy
the movie.
Billy Bean sitting there watching the game from the stands
How did
on his
he?
phone.
I don't get it. Like you just show up like in 2 hours. So like the players show up to the park and they're taking BP at if for for an East Coast game at 7 o'clock. It's probably 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock probably. They're taking
Yeah,
BP 4 o'clock. So that's 3 hours, 4 hours before game time. How do you not know then?
yeah,
Or we're delaying this game 2 hours, or did they know and they just didn't know what to do?
potentially. Maybe they thought they would have left when all the noise and everything, get the people in there and stuff will move. But yeah, that was crazy to see that, and just not something you see every day. I mean, squirrel, cat, some other bird on the field, sure. A bird getting blown up by Randy Johnson, yeah, we've seen it.
If you're in Oakland in the visitor press box, you got raccoons or possums just living in there. It is what it is. But
Yeah, it's one. This is some strange shit. But yeah, that was definitely interesting this week, and it was one of the strangest things by far this year, I would say, not just this week.
yeah, well, that's all I got for what I saw this week.
All right, so for me, I dove in, and it was kind of the one thing I was thinking about was Jackson Holiday, and you've got the Baltimore Orioles who have been playing phenomenal baseball. They call them up. And normally, when you see a top prospect come up, it's when the team actually needs a lift, a boost, some sort of energy. And he came up and struggled. No harm, no foul. The team continued to win, gave him his first taste of major leagues. So I wanted to look to see what he's been doing since. And he's been with the Norfolk Tide. And as of right now, which I just actually deleted it, he's only hitting 200. Now he's got 4 doubles, but he's only hitting 200 since coming back. Beforehand, I believe he was hitting 288. And I was just kind of really interested to see how he would do coming back. And I think you had mentioned that it was Tuesday of last week that he went 3 for 6. So he got off to a slow start getting back. Obviously, I think it would probably a little bit of a culture shock or maybe an ego shock to him to go up and struggle the way he did with the Orioles. But again, he was so protected in regards to that team winning still. It wasn't on his shoulders to win the game. So I'm going to be monitoring Jackson Holiday over the next couple of weeks, and I want to pay attention to Norfolk Tide just to see if he really is starting to turn it around, or if this is going to be a struggle that he deals with for a little bit longer after his first call up. But again, the big thing for him is this isn't one of those times where the Orioles need to call him up because they need to boost in ticket sales or anything else. This was just simply giving him a taste, sending him back down, and continuing to roll. And the biggest thing is he didn't have an impact negatively or positively on the team. So it'll be very interesting to see what he does moving forward. Hopefully, he'll rebound and get back to what he was doing previously. Hitting the ball hard, hitting the ball out of the ballpark, which he hasn't done since going back to Norfolk. But it's something I'll watch. And
Baseball is such a mental game
yep,
that him getting called up and struggling. Now, the way all the numbers, it was talked about for so long. I forget how long he was up for. I want to say it was 3 weeks. It might have been longer. It might have been less. But I want to say I feel like it was 3 weeks. And I just felt like every night he was being talked about and what he was
yep,
doing and how he wasn't succeeding. And that's such a mental thing that him getting sent
mm-hmm.
down, that's in his head. As a person who played, and again, I don't have all this money and I don't have all this nice stuff where I would deal with Marucci and they give me a nice 3 or 4 bats and I'm good for the season. I would get hot. Like last season, perfect example. I started off red hot and then I shattered my bat. And it just became such a mental thing where I knew I broke my bat and I knew the bat I had, I wasn't hitting the ball with well. And I didn't have the money to go buy one. So I sat there and it affected my numbers. I mean, my average dipped from 3 something to 1 something over
Yeah,
the course of like 6 games. And that's what baseball is it's just all mental. Like you don't feel comfortable. Something happens. Everything about it changes. Your plate approach changes. I was swinging at pitches I wouldn't normally swing at, like everything. And so I'm not really worried about what he does. Especially, I mean, like you had said, we talked about it Tuesday. He went 3 for 6 with a double, an RBI, and 2 runs scored. So it's there. He
yeah,
just has to get that confidence back. And not for nothing, it's going to take. I don't think he gets it back this week. And if he does, that shows you the kind of hitter he can be. And
yeah,
that's he's young. So it's going to take him some time to find that rhythm that gets him out of his slump. And he is the son of a former major league player, so he's used to his. I'm sure his dad's telling him like the crowd noise is going to come. You're going to go through stretches where you're bad, but he, as his own person, has to find what works for him to get him out of that. His dad
Yep.
could tell him all day long, you got to get used to it, but he's got to find what works for him. And I have no doubt, as the ball player he is and what he's done in his young career, that he will, and
Oh
that
yeah,
we
he's
will.
way too young to worry now.
There's a reason why he's the number one prospect in
Yeah.
MLB.com, Baseball America, ITD. All of us have him there.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. So I'm fully confident that he'll get back there and he'll be the hitter that we expect him to be.
So you mentioned his father, and that was the next kind of thing that I was going to talk about. Jackson was is that it's not like a typical prospect that came up that doesn't, may have had good bloodlines, but Matt Holliday as your dad is a different bloodline. All-star, World Series champ. He's at the games every single game, down on the field, before at batting practice every single game. And you have to wonder if that pressure, and because you have to believe the comparisons are going on back and forth, being
Mhm.
asked, the questions by the reporters, what do you think of this? Your dad did this here. What are you trying to live up to? That's a lot for a young kid at 18 who's had to live with it his whole career anyway. But it just made me think of, the Bo Bichette's of the world, the Kevin Biggios, and the trifecta, Vlad Jr. in Toronto, and all three of them having professional dads and having their own storied careers. And you get this hype built up, and everyone right now thinks that Vladdy isn't the superstar that he was. His numbers are just as good as anyone, but they've got this expectation of here, right? After one good year. And I hope that doesn't happen to Jackson, because otherwise a great career might be belittled because of everyone holds him up here, when reality what he's doing is still a great career, but they don't think of it that way due to who his bloodline is. So Jackson will be fine. I'm interested to watch to see what happens. I do think we'll see him again um, up in Baltimore, just to rebuild that confidence again, and maybe he'll stick. But the kid's 18, 19 years old. He's, like you said, he's the number one rated prospect by everybody for a reason. So the next guy I was looking at, and kind of shocked me, but I thought about this earlier in the year when the Rockies played the Cubs, was Nolan Jones. Was this top outfielder, young rookie, and he is having a bad start to the year. He's hit in 26 games and 94 at bats. He's got 11 runs scored, 16 hits, 5 doubles, 1 triple, 1 home run, and only 7 RBIs. He's got 9 walks and 37 strikeouts, 2 stolen bases. He's hitting 170. He's got an OPS of 520. Last year, he had 20 home runs, 22 doubles, 4 triples, 62 RBIs, 20 stolen bases, and hit for 297 with an OPS of 931. That's a ways off the mark. And for a team that was looking to be young and was really looking into the future, and Nolan Jones being a big part, as of right now, he's been a letdown so far this year. And that was kind of something that was a shock to me, because he's a big kid, talented kid, and I think he's starting to press. And you can see that with a number of strikeouts he's got right now.
Well, I also wonder if that has to do with the Rockies not being good. And I mean,
What do you mean?
they weren't good last year,
No.
but they've lost all of their pitching from last year. Like Marquez hasn't pitched at all, and I think we've
Nope.
talked about that. And so, is it the aspect of he's trying to do too much? And I thought about it. I tried my hardest to find a way to try to find a loophole to something for him, where I did his home and away splits, and those weren't good.
No.
And I almost want to say, let's see what happens when it gets warmer. I just want to wait and see, and come the end of maybe even the middle of June. What's he like in the middle of June?
Yep. No, it was just interesting to me because he was also that gold glove caliber outfielder, and the first few games he's making several errors, bad plays, just misreading things, just being kind of lackadaisical, having one go off the heel of his glove, trying to charge in on a ball and let it go under his glove. So I think right now he's pressing, no doubt. And hopefully, like you said, once it starts to heat up, maybe sit him a couple of games, get him back in the groove of things, because he is a talented player. My next thing was, we had talked about Luis Arraez being traded. And I forget at this point in time who I'd even mentioned it to. Maybe it was for the Reds. No, forget which. Maybe it was the Red Sox. I can't even remember which team, but I threw his name out there, and neither of us thought they'd give up at this point.
Yeah,
Now he's a San Diego Padre.
which is interesting because what are they doing? He's DH.
I wasn't sure what the hell they were doing with him there, but he's a guy that can hit, gets on base, doesn't hit for power, but maybe he can set the table for the rest of the guys out there. But it led me to wonder, what's the next shoe to drop in Miami? Do the White Sox start selling off? What about the Angels? The Angels are going to be without Trout for a long period of time. They're already dead. They're at the bottom of the division. Both teams. The White Sox, in my eyes, I looked at their roster today just to kind of see stats-wise of who's worth moving. There's nothing. Nothing for the White Sox.
I saw something today about the White Sox, and I'm kind of intrigued by it. I'm not saying do it. I'm not saying I love it, but we talked for the last couple weeks, and I'm very high on this with Andrew Bailey and the Red Sox.
Yep.
People have talked about, what if Michael Kopech comes back to the Red Sox and Andrew Bailey gets his hands on him? Is that the kind of thing that could fix him and save his career?
Where would you put him? Starter or bullpen?
I don't know, because I feel like you almost Daniel Bardem now. Like, you've just messed with the guy's head so much. Like, what did he come up? He came up a starter, and the Sox traded him to be a starter. The White Sox had him as a starter, and then they moved him to the bullpen now. And I just feel like it's a lot of emotion to keep messing with. They do it with Papelbon too. It's another guy that they had as a starter, and they moved him, and he succeeded.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if I want him in the bullpen, because I'm okay with the bullpen the way it is. Especially, like, you get Kenley, and you're going to have Hendricks back by the deadline. And again, I should have talked about them before, but they're a team, I can't believe it, with all the injuries they got. They're 19-16, I believe, or something like that.
Their pitching has been phenomenal.
And even the guys you don't expect, like Cooper Criswell and Winkowski, hasn't looked bad. I mean, the bullpen games kind of suck, but there's hope on the horizon. Bayo's back this weekend. Pavetta's back Wednesday. But I really think Jesus Luzardo, going back to your Marlins take, I think he's a guy that's going to be out there. And I think no matter what, they're trading Josh Bell and Tanner Scott as soon as they possibly can, because they're both free agents at the end of the year.
Jake Lamb as well, Jake Berger, sorry. Jake Lamb Jake Berger, who was on the IL, but as soon as he gets back and hitting too, he's another one that could go. The other guy, I think Luzardo is one that you see him get, if he can prove in 3 starts and not have any setbacks, that's when teams, you'll start hearing rumors of so-and-so scouts. There's going to be some talk. If he can come back, pitch, and show no signs of regression or have any setbacks, that's a guy to go. And the other one was Tanner Scott out of the bullpen. He was actually something I read or heard over the weekend that the Cubs were interested.
It's not a bad one.
No. The only other guy from really the White Sox, the Angels, is just a mess, and I don't know what they do, or if they just stand pat and reset at the end of the season. Trout's going to be out. There's nothing really there that interests me. The White Sox have Benintendi. They have Pham, who again comes in, gets pulled up, veteran. Saw it last year with the Mets. They traded him off to the Diamondbacks. He's a veteran bat that can just play. He's consistent. You know what to expect from him. So I think it'll be interesting to see how long before the Marlins continue to go and then the White Sox. And I think the surprise team that could be sellers sooner rather than later if things don't turn around are the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yes, I was another team I was thinking of.
What
However,
about Arenado to the Reds to
I don't
play
think they're
third?
trading. I don't think they're trading within the division because I also saw another one that I put away. I didn't even bother reading. Was Jazz Chisholm to the Phillies, and I went. They're not trading within the division. That's not
Mm-mm.
happening. I would see. I think you have a better chance of Mike Trout going there in the offseason or the deadline to Philly. Um, Now, could I see Jazz Chisholm going to an American League team? I very well. I mean, I don't know who. I mean, I'm trying to think off the top of my head right now
About
where
the
he would.
Royals.
Yeah, if they're still in it. I almost debated the Guardians.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Stephen Kwan went down today. Well, May 5th with a hamstring, but yeah, that would be an interesting fit there. But it's going to be interesting because some of these teams right now are in such bad shape and they're so far behind that there's going to be some moves to be made now, probably by the end of May, beginning of June, to get a head start before, you know, everyone else is out there. See if they can get a little bit more before the market gets flooded with some of these guys. But so my other thing, this was something I thought about the other day. If you're the GM and you're starting an expansion team and you can take one of these guys to be your cornerstone first pick and you're building around, who would you pick? Ellie De La Cruz, Julio Rodriguez, CJ Abrams, Bobby Witt, Gunnar Henderson, or Corbin Carroll? Who would you take to start your team?
The two names I went to right away on that list were Gunnar Henderson and Bobby Witt.
Yep.
Um, and I personally went Gunnar Henderson. I was 50-50, and then as I looked more into it, and it was the offensive and defensive wars that persuaded me to go Gunnar Henderson. And so with that, I wanted to say that Bobby Witt has a 7.8 WAR. Gunnar Henderson has a
Okay.
9.5 WAR. Offensive WAR for Bobby Witt is a 10.1, whereas Gunnar Henderson's a 7.8. I can live with a 7.8 WAR. The defensive WAR for Bobby Witt is negative 0.4, whereas for Gunnar Henderson, it's defensively a 2.5. To me, that was what did it. As I want somebody, they say teams that win championships do it up the middle: catcher,
Yep.
shortstop, center field, and then a pitcher. So I want to start with if I'm going to build my team to win a championship, I want somebody who can play shortstop, which Gunnar Henderson is probably going to play third if Jackson Holiday
Yep.
does stick, whatever. But for right now, I believe he can play some shortstop.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, I want Gunnar Henderson as my shortstop to start my team because he can do it with the bat and he can do it with the glove. And not saying Bobby Witt can't,
Yep.
but it's on the
The
defensive
numbers. Yep.
war. I'll take the Gunnar Henderson over Bobby Witt in that aspect.
So I went the opposite. I had those two, and I went Bobby Witt, and I'm moving him to third base,
Hmm.
which has been rumored, maybe down the line in his career, because I do believe Gunner's going to move there as well once Holiday's up. But Bobby Witt's bat, and he has nothing surrounding him other than Salvador Perez, who's been there for years. But if you put Bobby Witt on the Orioles roster and you flipped them, what would their numbers look like? That to me is something like who's I think they're both phenomenal bats, but Bobby Witt's speed to me and what he can do, I went the different direction and I went with Bobby Witt. And again, like I said, moved him to third, but it was definitely a clear 1-2 between those two. I think preseason Julio Rodriguez would have been up there due to what he can do, just not what he's done so far this year. But I went
Corbin
Bobby
Carroll.
Witt.
I was debating Corbin Carroll,
Well,
but
yeah, Corbin's done the same thing as Julio. Both have been kind of quiet to start the year, but very interesting kind of look. I know a lot of people are very high on what Abrams is doing and also Dela Cruz right now, and Cincinnati's been phenomenal. But I ended up going Witt, and you end up going Henderson, and both were our final two. So leading into wrapping this up, what's the series to watch this week or this weekend for you?
You want just one?
One or two.
I got. Oh boy, I got a bunch for the week.
Okay.
Padres Cubs is one
Yep.
because we talked about before we came on. Justin Steele makes his return.
Mm-hmm.
Imanaga's also out there, and Dylan Cease, and also you got Luis Arraez. I got Red Sox Braves because I love
Yep.
the pitching matchups in that series. Crawford and Lopez, the two guys with two of the lowest ERAs in all of baseball, and then you got Pivetta and Sale. Um, I'll skip over this one because the pitching matchup had changed. I was going to do Blue Jays Phillies, but I thought it was going to be Barrios versus Wheeler and then Bassett versus Nola. It's actually
Yep.
going to be Sanchez going for the Phillies instead, so I'm going to pass over that one. I want to see the Astros and the Yankees in
Yep.
just the week because I want to see if the Astros are starting to figure some stuff out and see if they can flip the page. And Verlander's back in this series, see if they can get some revenge against the Yankees. And another one I'm going into for the week before I get to the weekend: A's and Rangers. It's a 4-game
Yep.
series. The A's are 8-2 in their last 10. Now you're facing a team in your division who is in the top two of the division. Is that success going to stay? And I mean, they're getting, they're going to face Heaney, Eovaldi, Lorenzen, and Dunning. They're going to counter with Wood, Stripling, Sears. No, Sears just went on the IL, so I don't know who's getting the third game, and then Blackburn. And Blackburn's
Yep.
been fantastic.
Yep.
On the weekend, I'm going to go Dodgers Padres because you get Luis
Yep.
Arraez added to that new rivalry, and the Padres are going to see Bueller, Glasnow, and Paxton.
Jesus.
And another two that I was interested in for the weekend. It's a weird weekend slate. I'm not
Yeah.
thrilled with
Nothing
it.
really stood out.
Diamondbacks Orioles.
Yep.
I'm intrigued by that one just because I want to see Means back out there again. I believe he's got Saturday.
Yep.
And then I want to see Gallen pitch on Sunday. He's going to face, I think, Kramer from what I've seen from basing the pitching matchups from what they've had for a schedule. The last one going back to the A's. If they can do if they can even come out of a split with the Rangers, you got the Mariners now, and you're going to follow. Oh no, I'm sorry. Sears is healthy. It's Joe Boyle who went on the injured list today. He was supposed to
Yep.
pitch the first game of that Mariners series. He won't. But then they're going to have Wood versus Castillo in the middle game and Stripling Hancock in the final. If the A's can end the week, what do we got? 7 games. I'll say a game above 500 in those 7 games. I might have to start wondering if the A's are actually really good. Actually, not really good, but a decent ball team, a ball club.
Yep.
Since that Red Sox series, now everybody gave shit for the Red Sox for sweeping. Oh, you beat the A's. Congrats. You swept them.
Yep.
The
They're
Yankees didn't
not
sweep
that
them.
bad.
The Orioles didn't sweep them. But I think I heard since then, I don't know, this was, I think from Thursday I heard this, that they are 3 games above 500 since that series with the Red Sox. Now being 8-2 over your last 10, I'm going to guess they're more than 3 games over 500 since that series now. But so if they go 4-3 this week and the Rangers and against the Rangers and the Mariners, we could have some interesting conversations next week about the Oakland A's.
Yep. Couple series for me, and you touched on quite a few and that I'm interested in well, but getting back to the Cardinals, they play the Mets to start this week, and I'm very interested to see how they do against the Mets because that's a team, like I said, that back-to-back years not doing well. A lot of high-priced names out there that they've got to improve their farm system. Jordan Walker they sent down was just looking awful. He was their top prospect. So it'll be very interesting to see. And right now they're losing 3-1 to the
Yep.
Mets.
I was just going to say that.
And then this weekend they play. The Cardinals have where is it? They play the Brewers. So if you go in and lose the series to the Mets, and you go in with no momentum against the Brewers, who currently lead the division by a slim margin in the Central, and don't win that series, you're already 15-19 going into play today. If you
Yeah.
can't somehow figure out a way to get, within a game of 500 after this week's games, doesn't get any easier. The other one this weekend that I'm really interested in watching is the Giants and Reds. Just the pitching matchups that the Giants have to see what they do. A lot of ground ball pitchers. Hicks has looked phenomenal. I'll be
Yeah.
very interested to see what the Reds can do. against them because they should also have TJ Friedel back at some point this week. Maybe it'll be announced tomorrow that he's back. I know he was on a rehab assignment. That would be a huge boost to that lineup. But that's the other series other than the Dodgers Padres that you mentioned, the A's Mariners, that has my interest. But that Reds team I'm still not sure what to think. They have all the pieces. They're just not firing on all cylinders right now. And I can tell you right now, I mentioned this when he was signed, and I've mentioned it a couple other times to you, is the Jameer Candelero. I can't stand. I don't like that signing there. Um, Obviously, they went into the year looking a lot different with Marte at third, India somewhere either between DH, somewhere out in the outfield, and Matt McLean being in the infield with them, and CES playing first. I just don't see Candelario being a big piece to that team, and he hasn't done anything to speak of. It's been Dela Cruz, it's been Steer, and India is hot and cold. But I just that's a very strange team. The pitching has not been that bad. They just aren't scoring many runs each game. They blow up for runs and then they disappear. So it'll be very interesting this weekend to see how they do against the Giants. So that was one series, other than the Cardinals, that I'm kind of paying attention to just because of what's going on in the Central right now.
Yep.
So with that said, before we kind of wrap up, I just want to kind of talk like we do each week. If you folks love baseball, want to talk baseball, want to join our team, kind of connect with us and write about your favorite team or team that you live in the area of, go to the website, insidethediamonds.com/join us, and just let us know. And we've got plenty of different openings. Even if someone's already covering a team, we welcome multiple writers to deal with each team because there's plenty of things to cover and not everyone's free. This is not a full-time job for most. So just reach out to us. Let us know who you'd like to cover or any questions you have. Write in comments. Just, go through socials to reach out to us, and we can fill you in on what we're looking for and what the requirements are and kind of see if it's something that matches your schedule. So go to the website and hit us up. We're covering anything to do with roster moves to series recaps, series previews, opinion pieces, and some of these teams we're doing down on the farms to tell you what the farm teams are doing and what their top prospects are doing. So there's plenty of different things to kind of build a writing resume for you, and also just kind of previous topics that we can share with you to kind of hit the ground running. So with that, CJ, that leads us into your favorite time, or at least my favorite time of the week, is the top 100 prospects and who was your top performer this week. I should say performers because you've yet to have narrowed down to one for each week, which is fine. There's plenty of them out there.
This week I finally did it.
Oh, good.
So if you look at the bottom, I've actually made this that we can.
I see that.
The link is there. May should be coming out. I know I said it would be Monday. I'm waiting to get some stuff ironed out, but we should have our top 100 coming out here shortly. I made the graphic for the updated top 10 the other day, and I actually wrote today something a little different besides my down on the farms. I also included an update for the top 10 prospects and what they've done this week. My goal with that is I'd like to do what I think I'm going to do one once a month with the new top 10 and see how they did. So if somebody slides in like Max Clark just slid in with the graduation of Evan Carter, I think Wyatt Langford will graduate soon. Might be whenever there's a graduation in the top 10. And we'll do a check-in just so you can find out what the top 10 prospects are doing. So with that, let's get into who won the awards this week. My hitter of the week was from March, my 42nd ranked prospect, and that's catcher Harry Ford. He was also named hitter of the week for his respected league. He's a double-A prospect for the Seattle Mariners, playing for the Arkansas Travelers. This week, he went 8 for 14 with a .571 batting average. 3 doubles, a home run, 4 RBIs, 5 runs scored, 5 walks, and 3 stolen bases. Now, just to give you an idea, this season he's hitting 261 with a 914 OPS. He has 4 home runs, 20 runs scored, 11 RBIs, and 7 stolen bases. Now, he's at Double A. I think the call to Triple A. I think actually he made the list last week, if I remember correctly. He was
Yeah,
one of the
he
two.
did.
It might be time to start looking at a call to Triple A because I don't remember who the Mariners catcher. Oh, they have Cal Raleigh, or is he more of a DH for them?
Well, they have him and Garver, Mitch Garver. So Raleigh's been catching, Garver's been DHing, but Garver can catch too. So he is a little bit, I guess, jammed up, if you will, at that spot. But there's definitely room for him in the future, and I was looking at him as maybe moving up to their AAA team. But if he keeps that up and is getting on base at that clip, pretty tough to hold him back. Garver can play first base if they need to. Um, so it'd be very interesting to see. And the other thing to me when looking and listening to his speed, and this is, I've seen clips of him, and this is just me thinking of the stats without putting eyes on him for several games, kind of reminds me of Craig Biggio. Super athletic, fast guy, can move. And if there is that logjam and Raleigh's really your catcher of the future, they do have a gap at second base in the future.
Yeah.
Saves his knees if he's running, saves his legs, gives you that other kind of dynamic. Again, this is all without me even putting eyes on him, but it is someone I want to pay a little closer attention to see because he's a little guy too. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's just a little in stature. I don't think he's 6 feet. I want to say he's like 5'9". Actually, if I
They have another second baseman in their system, I believe. Hold on, I'm trying to pull up my
I
images
was
of my top 100, but there is another one.
I've got
Cole
my
Young.
yeah,
Cole Young's
they
the middle
do.
infielder for them.
He's 5'10", 200 pounds. Sorry, my my son had his baseball card out on the desk earlier, and I was looking at it before we started. But that was just to me when I heard you talk about him last week, and then again this week, just the speed. You don't see a lot. I mean, Jason Kendall for the Pirates back in the day was a guy that could steal some bases, had the speed, and Biggio come to mind right off the top of my head when I'm thinking speed and comparison to size. Not saying that they'll move him, but oftentimes teams that have a pure athletic, and I don't know what he is defensively behind the plate, but if he's an athlete and you want to save his legs for the future and get more run out of him, there could be a move in the future, depending on what their game plan is within the organization for him.
Well, I almost wonder with Cole Young, is he your second baseman? And then we could have the conversation of what if, now having played catcher most of my life, the transition wasn't too bad. Um, the idea of maybe third base. Third base, or I mean, I played first base a lot more than the third base, but usually catcher to third base is an easier transition. And so, because if you think about it, they got Polanco, so they have Polanco who can
Yeah.
play second or short. Cole Young can play, I believe he can play second or short. If I'm
Yeah.
assuming I'm thinking of the right prospect. Um, and then you have Harry Ford, who again catcher, but you could move him. Third base is usually a better option for catchers.
Yeah, and I can't remember way back, but Biggio could have also been moved due to his arm strength. And again, without putting eyes on Henry Ford and or I'm trying to see, it doesn't say Harry Ford on the back. It doesn't say anything about his. Actually, it does say, and his throwing arm is another plus tool. So who knows? Maybe, but he is an athletic guy, and it's rare for me. The speed stats are what sticks out. Again, it's at Double A if that continues on through his path, but he's been very productive in the last 2 weeks.
So with that, we'll jump to the pitcher of the week, and I'm going Noble Meyer. He's at
Okay.
single A for the Miami Marlins, playing for the Jupiter Hammerheads. He's the 53rd overall ranked prospect from March. Again, we haven't updated, so he's jumped. But he got the start on Saturday, and he got the win. He went 5 innings, gave up 1 hit, didn't allow a run, walked 2, and struck out 9. His issue to start this season has been his walks, and in this
Mhm.
start, he limited them. He has the 9 strikeouts in that one start was a career high. And on this season, he's 2-1 with a 4.26 ERA, a 1.47 WHIP, 19 strikeouts in 19 innings, and he's made 5 starts. The
Wow.
Marlins, and I think I said this a couple weeks ago when we talked about it, they are just a pitching factory at all times. And
Yeah.
it, everybody has that next man up mantra, and it's for any player for most teams. But then when it comes to the Marlins, it feels like they lose a pitcher and they just have one waiting in the wings. Like
Yeah.
last season, Yuri Perez was a big one coming up. And I actually think he made the jump from Double A. I think he got called up from Double A to make his MLB debut. But I mean, another one they have, like I've looked at this nonstop, but I can't. I believe he is a pitcher. Well, one I know is a pitcher. The other one pretty positive he's a pitcher. Max Meyer, who I have as my
Yeah.
third Marlins prospect, is another one coming, and I'm pretty sure Thomas White is a pitcher as well. Um, so it's just like they always have pitchers just waiting. It's and like I said, they have we talked about Alcantara. Ooh, Thomas White. Fun fact from Raleigh, Massachusetts. He's a New England
No
boy,
shit. No
and he is
shit.
also a pitcher. He's at Single A Jupiter. So it's another thing. It's just they just Luzardo. I think that opens the door more for Luzardo to get moved because you got Alcantara coming back. You got Yuri Perez who will be back next year. Braxton Garrett. Um, Sixtos looked okay. I mean, he struggled and he faced the Braves. So
Yeah.
they're just nothing but an arm factory. It reminds me of it's the other team I'll equate it to is the Rays. We talked about it.
Yeah.
Like Rays aren't as
Yep.
good this year because their arms are hurt. It's just a pitching factory. Now they need bats.
Well, yeah.
So can you move those prospects? I mean, they're not in the race, so they're not going to flip your top 3 prospects for a bat. But can you move Luzardo and Garrett and get 2 bats or 2 prospect bats that are worth it and
Yep.
build a little future? I mean, think about what they did in '97 to win it all, or '03.
Yeah.
Beckett, Miguel Cabrera, like all the prospects they had that came up, and Mike Lowell was a vet at that point, I believe. But all the things that they did to win those 2 World Series. So
You just mentioned it, all that you just mentioned. And I know we're just talking prospects, but to wrap it up for any Marlins fan that's listening, just because they start selling off this year and all these arms coming back next year, all they're doing right now is they're revamping so that when those arms come back and they have these extra resources, they have the offense or they rebuild their farm system so that they can do what they've done in the past. And they've got the arms. It'll be very interesting. This isn't the White Sox you're talking about that are riddled with injuries of top guys. This Marlins team lacks some talent on the field, but their arms are phenomenal when they're healthy.
yep.
And
Oh,
that to me is maybe the only reason why you kind of slow play or hold on to Luzardo to have him, in the mix next year with Alan Alcantara coming back
well, and Yuri Perez.
and
But
Yuri Perez. I mean,
we talked about that Arraez trade. And I wanted to know if you saw the video before we get to
yeah.
wrapping this up. The funniest thing. So there was a video that went viral, and I forget who posted it, but with the Arraez trade, the Marlins claimed 4 prospects. And in the video I saw, the guy was one of the prospects they acquired. He was standing on second base, and they had to pull him. And he was confused why they were pulling him. He had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
Like trade deadline season, they understand more so like it's coming. This was out of nowhere. I mean,
Yep.
I saw the update on my phone. Was it Friday? I think it was Friday it came through, and it was my birthday. And so I had everybody here. I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on?
Yeah.
It was shocking. But the 2 players that they acquired, and I want to say it was the Padres Double A affiliate, but both guys packed up their stuff and then they walked down the first baseline saying goodbye to everybody. And so I was
Yep.
like, "There's no clubhouse at the stadium, but they have to walk down the foul line to get out of there."
Very well could be if they're with it, especially if they're the visiting team.
They literally had their bags and their bats in their hand. They're saying bye to like the first base coach, the guy that was on first base. It was a very interesting sight watching it.
You don't see a lot of that in these trades. They don't ever show you that, but where it's so early and so rare in game like that, especially, depending on the start time. But that was definitely a video that was interesting to me because normally they'll show you the videos from the minors where they're making the call up or going somewhere different. But yeah, that was a neat video and interesting and raised a lot of questions in regards to what their accommodations are like inside the locker room and how they get in and out and moved around.
Yeah, thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, it was interesting. There's so much about minor league baseball that I think that we don't even know, and I think we'd be surprised at some of the stories in regards to, what the accommodations are like. They already moved them 6 game series to cut back on travel and cost, but still, these are small ballparks and they're not guaranteed from year to year. There's short contracts, so what they've got for accommodations are vastly different than what the pros deal with in the big leagues. So, um, great job with the prospects. I really enjoy. I did read the top 10 article. I like looking at that stuff. Like I said, the biggest thing about doing this with you and joining ITD and doing the writing is I'm learning a little bit more about some of these other teams' prospects, paying attention to them, catching more minor league games, even if it is just a couple innings at a time than I would normally. So it's been a lot of fun. And just an update, Justin Steele did not do so hot in his first game back. That game's 6-2 right now, and going into the top of the seventh. The Padres are putting it to him right now, and I believe Steele is already out of the game. So, welcome back, Justin. Do you have anything else that you'd like to add?
Not that I can think of. I excited for the week of baseball. I'm excited to see what happens this week and what happens this weekend. Luis Arraez, by the way, 0 for 4 tonight.
Yep.
So after his first game, that was actually one thing I did have to say. My one takeaway that I forgot to mention. I believe it was a record. 4 for 4 he was the first Padres player ever to have a 4-hit game in his first game with the team. So making his presence known right away, which is why I put that on my docket for the weekend with the Dodgers Padres, his first taste of it, and they got their loaded bats, some good pitching. That'll be a hell of a series to watch. I'm surprised that's not Sunday Night Baseball, but can't give
Yep.
the Dodgers every game, I guess, right?
No, I guess not. I mean, you could, but might as well not. But yeah, no, Arias playing DH, like you said, leading off for the Padres tonight. And the only guy that shocks me more than Ranger Suarez from the Phillies is Profar for the Padres. And I haven't mentioned him yet, but that'll be one next week that I'll touch on. That he's batting cleanup for those guys. He's got 2 RBIs tonight, so we'll touch on that next week. Um, we appreciate everyone listening. Like, subscribe, reach out to us if you're interested in joining our group, talking baseball and just covering the team you love. So I appreciate everyone listening. CJ, thanks again. Been a lot of fun, and listen in next week.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy your week.
All right.
Go Red Sox, go Tigers, go Cubs, go Reds. I don't know who else we want to say go to, but
Go anyone but the Yankees, I think, at this point, right?
go Orioles. I mean, even though they're
Yep.
an AL East team, but go Orioles. Thanks,
Phillies
guys.
are up 3 games.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Enjoy your week.
Thanks. Take care.